I would like to discuss the case of Dr. Jeffrey MacDonald. Um, Anybody who's not familiar with it, it's best known as the Fatal Vision case. Okay, and although I like the book Fatal Vision by Joe McGinnis, and it tells a story of a man who was convicted of murdering his pregnant wife and two young daughters, and this happened in February 1970. And it still has a lot of people saying that he's innocent. A lot of people say he's guilty. The jury decided he was guilty, and his many appeals have been turned down. Okay. I think, though, that this review that I read about it, that was published in the New Republic, actually gets closer to the bone of this case than anything else I've read, including McGinnis's book. Josephine Hendon is the author of the review. Okay, now one problem I have with Joe McGinnis's book and with other people who say he's guilty, and I do believe he is guilty. I do believe he killed those kids and that he killed his pregnant wife, is that they insist that Jeff MacDonald is a psychopath or a pathological narcissist, as McGinnis believes. That he is somebody who lacks the ability to empathize. Okay, this isn't true. And the reason I believe people want to believe this is that if a man killed his pregnant wife and two young daughters, he has to not be like the rest of us. So we have to shove him into one of these slots, even though the many psychiatrists who have examined him all agree that he's normal. Okay, now what Hendon, some of her points, I think, were extremely important, and that is that MacDonald, in his whole life, exists in a relationship of paradox. Okay, he was a healer who committed a brutal murder. After the murders, he became a very respected emergency room physician. And he also took a special interest in the treatment of abused children. Now, how are we to read the child murderer who took this special interest and actually authored a textbook on how to find out if children have been abused? How do we read this? Is this a way that in which he tried to make some sort of restitution to the world or to the universe for the murders of little Christy and little Kimberly? Another thing about him is the way that he's quoted in McGinnis's book as describing his wife Colette, the wife that he brutally murdered. He describes her as being very supportive, a very good mother, a very good wife. He wasn't faithful to her, but they basically got along well, according to him. And he describes her as the epitome of womanhood. Now, Hendon has it right when she says, by reducing her to nothing, he restored her to being all. What probably happened was that in an argument, she may have said something crude, or she may have challenged his authority as a husband, and in some way stepped outside that role that he had her as, of the epitome of womanhood. And I think that that's something that, we have to focus on, is the fact that it's kind of similar to Gene Harris. He's loyal to the person that he murdered, or in her case, may have accidentally killed. And that loyalty is what makes this thing most interesting. Okay? And I think Hendon is also right in his insistence on his innocence, despite the physical evidence. He's not so much a hypocrite as a kind of ideologue, because the survival of Colette and his family and his two children as perfect creatures, as a good family, depended on their deaths and his life. that's very perverse, but it also makes a kind of psychological sense. I also think that she's wrong in that she is right in thinking that Joe McGinnis, was wrong in thinking that the murder could be explained by his abuse of an amphetamine. That smoking pill sort of perception is actually a way of trying to get away from the true motivation or the true meaning of this crime. And I hope you liked what you heard and will subscribe to my channel.